Hi there. Before we actually get started learning about the saxophone, I'd like to take a second to introduce myself. My name is Dan Lucar, and I'm an elementary school band director. My goal for these lessons and of this app is to make saxophone accessible to everybody. A lot of the time, saxophone can be perceived as a very intimidating instrument. It's not like a piano where it's just set up and you can go and play it and make sound instantly. Just getting the saxophone together properly is a task in and of itself. So by the end of these lessons, I hope to teach you how to read music, how to assemble your saxophone, how to learn a few songs, and generally just how to learn on your instrument, which is a tricky thing. So that if you enjoy these 10 lessons, that you might be more inclined to pursue taking private lessons or joining your school band. So let's get started first on how to assemble our instrument. And to be honest, video lessons on how to assemble your instrument are a little bit tricky because without the guidance of a teacher kind of just showing you the mechanics and helping you place the saxophone and place the reed and everything, it's a little bit more tricky to learn in the video medium. But we're going to try our best anyway. So, when I have my saxophone here, I want to be sure that my logo of my case is facing towards the sky. If I open up my case and the logo is facing down, then the saxophone is going to spill all over the ground and possibly damage your instrument. So be sure that the logo is facing up. I've seen this so many times where people's instruments will take a spill on the floor just because they didn't do that. So easy step one. Now, the first thing that we're going to do with our saxophone is kind of a unique little skill that we have to learn. I'm going to take my neck strap and put it on over my neck. And the biggest difficulty I find young musicians have when they first start playing the instrument is that they don't know how to adjust their neck strap properly. And what that means is it means the saxophone is more difficult to hold, and it's already a difficult instrument to hold. So we're going to take a second to master the skill of adjusting the neck strap. So I'm going to take my 2 fingers and hold this part of the neck strap here, and take my other 2 fingers and hold the end. Now without any tension in the neck strap, or maybe a little bit, but not too much, I'm going to pull down and adjust the neck strap looser. I'm going to do the same thing, a little bit less tension when I pull it in, so there's no tension here. And I'm going to pull inwards until it comes high enough here. I want you to practice this until you can do this. If you're trying this at home, you might find this actually pretty difficult to do until you master it. Don't even think about the saxophone until you can do that. Now, there's many ways you can set up your saxophone first. And I'm going to start with the neck and the mouthpiece, the reed, and the ligature. So I'm going to take out the neck of my saxophone. And first I'm going to teach you how to care for it. Your saxophone likely came with something that we call cork grease. And most likely it takes this form. It looks like a thing of chapstick. But please do not mix this up with chapstick because it will taste terrible if you put it on your lips. So I'm going to open it here, and I'm going to put a little dab of it, just a little bit, onto the cork. Put that away. And I'm going to take my hand and rub it all in, all over the cork. And the reason that I do this, and I'm going to do it every time I take out my instrument, is over time this cork on the instrument will crack, dry, and peel off. And that means you have to get it recorked. It's not a big deal, but it does cost money. And putting cork grease on will significantly improve the life of your cork on your saxophone. Alternatively, Yamaha does these little cork grease things, so it might not look like the chapstick. It could look like that. Now that the cork has the cork grease on it, I'm going to take my mouthpiece. If your saxophone is rented or used, most likely your cork will kind of have a discoloration at parts. And it's a good bet that you can put the mouthpiece on until you get to that discoloration. You feel a little bit of tension. It's kind of hard to put it on further. And for my saxophone, it's about this much here with a little bit of cork remaining there. So it might be different on each saxophone, but for now, just guess the length. As you get better, the length of the cork, how much you pull in or pull out, push in or pull out on your mouthpiece is super important. But for now, it's not that important. We just need to get the saxophone together. Now, here is the thing that ails many students, and that's putting the reed on the mouthpiece. The reed here looks like this. It has its own reed guard. All reeds will come with at least this. Some of you may have purchased an additional cooler reed guard, which is very nice because it could prevent the reeds from getting warped. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my mouth and moisten the reed on both sides. And the reason I do this, if the reed is really dry, you're going to squeak a lot. It's going to produce the reed won't respond the way you want it to, and you'll be more inclined to have harsh tone or squeak. So, get it nice and moist. Now, the ligature here, I'm going to set my reed down. Don't do that. But I'm going to set my reed down just so I can tell you about the ligature. This is called the ligature, and it's what attaches the reed to the mouthpiece. Now, a lot of the times when your ligature is new, the screws will be screwed all the way in. They'll be all the way tight. Start to loosen them if that's the case. You need to do an initial kind of what I call a calibration of your ligature before it's really easy to put on. And once it's calibrated, it's really easy to do. It's just a few turns and that's it. So, I'm going to take my ligature and I'm going to put it on the mouthpiece. You see how mine went on very nice and easy? What you may have done is this. You might have put it on backwards. It's an understandable mistake because it kind of looks the same on both sides, but one side is a little bit more narrow and it won't go on all the way, as you see. What I see a lot of students do is they start loosening their screws all the way until they fall off, and then they have to spend the time to put the screws back in, which can be a hassle. So just turn it around, see if that side is a lot better before you start unscrewing any looser. Now, the screws of the ligature actually face the opening for this type of ligature. There's different types, but this is the type that you most likely have. If I have them up, it's not the end of the world, but be sure you face them towards the tip opening. Now, once my ligature is on, I'm going to take my moistened reed and I'm going to slip it underneath that ligature. And I'm not going to worry about any fine adjustments now. I'm just going to kind of get it in the right ballpark, so to speak. Now I'm going to pull my ligature down, and by pulling it down I'm actually tightening it. I probably could get away with not even tightening the screws at all. So now that it's kind of the ligature is holding the reed in place, I'm going to use my thumb to kind of wiggle my reed right where I want it. And I'm going to want at the top of my reed just a little bit of the mouthpiece showing, and I'm talking just a sliver of that black mouthpiece. That's the perfect reed adjustment. Once I've got it there, I pull it down as much as I can with my thumb, and I give it a quarter turn, maybe a full turn if your screws need some calibrating. And when I want to take this off, all I need to do, maybe a quarter turn, and push up with my thumb. When I want to put it on, I put the ligature on, slip the reed underneath, pull it down, do some fine adjustments, pull it down even more, quarter turn and quarter turn. So once your ligature is calibrated, like I said, it's not screwing over and over. It's just a little turn and you're done. Now, this is an assembled part of the saxophone here. I'm going to set that aside for now. And now we're going to take out the body of the saxophone. And I do this second after this part because I don't want the students holding the saxophone while they're fumbling around with these little things here. So do this last. That's probably a safer bet. I'm going to take my neck strap, and right here you see a little circle. Don't clip onto any other parts of the saxophone. There's a little circle meant for the neck strap to clip on. And even though my neck strap is holding the weight of my saxophone, I want to always have at least one hand on my saxophone. The reason is these are very cheap straps. Almost all of them are the same, and you won't believe it until it happens to you, but they will just magically, so it seems, snap off. And if you're not holding onto your saxophone, that could be a very, very expensive repair if it crashes to the ground. So always have one hand on your saxophone, even though it seems like you're safe with the neck strap. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my neck, my mouthpiece, my ligature, and my reed, and I'm going to attach it to the body of the saxophone. And you notice how easy that went in? It might not be that easy for you, but it should never be force. Okay? You should never force it in. If you need to, you can loosen the screw here, slide it in, and then tighten it. If you're encountering difficulty, I almost guarantee that you're putting it in crooked. Let me exaggerate the problem that you're having. You're probably putting it in crooked like this. It's not going to be that drastic, but I'm just showing you what you're doing. You have to make sure it goes straight down and right in. Never twist. If something feels wrong, just take it out and try again until it feels easy there. Give a little tighten of the screw. Now, back to the most important skill I taught you in the beginning, and that's how to adjust your neck strap. When my saxophone is laying off to the side like this, I want the tip of the mouthpiece to come just below my lip, right around here, maybe around the crease of your chin right there. It's kind of preference how high or low a lot of musicians do. So I'm going to let the weight of the saxophone be carried by my neck strap. Still got my hand on it. And I'm going to adjust my neck strap up. Hopefully you've become a pro with the neck strap adjustment. Now, I'm going to wait. It's still a little too low. It's at the bottom of my chin. I'm going to come up here. That's about right. Right at the bottom of my lip, right around there. Now, there are two ways that you can hold the saxophone on your body. First way is the way that I'd like to recommend to you guys, which is off to the right of your body. Okay? It can also go in the center. The reason that I like beginners to go off to the right is sometimes when it's in between their legs, they pinch their legs together to help support the saxophone, and it ends up hitting some of the keys or obstructing some of the keys in a way that makes the saxophone sound a little strange. So when you get more advanced, feel free to choose between those. But for now, I would recommend playing off to the right-hand side. Now, how to hold the saxophone. This is tricky. The saxophone, my left hand is going to go on the top, my right hand is going to go on the bottom. Now, your saxophone might have a slightly different design, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my ring finger on this bottom circle key, my middle finger on the one just above it. I'm going to skip that little key and then put my pointer finger just above that. The key just above that on your particular saxophone might be white as well. So just ignore that key. You're not going to use it at any time in these 10 lessons, nor are you going to use this little key. For your left hand, there are 3 important keys there. Now, in the back, my thumb is going to rest on this rest right here. For certain notes, my thumb will use this key. Our first 3 notes will not have this key, so don't worry about it. Just put your thumb here. Now, with my left hand, it's going to hook my thumb underneath the back. There's a little thumb rest here. You hook underneath. And my ring finger is going to go on the bottom of the 3 keys here. My middle finger on the next one. And my pointer here. On the saxophone, for beginners, there's really 7 important keys. That's it. There's lots of keys on the saxophone for certain more advanced notes as you progress. But there's really 7 important keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the one in the back, 7. All right? So that's how you hold the saxophone. And of course, I do that with my neck strap. Don't remove the neck strap like I did. I did that just so I could show you guys. Practice holding the saxophone. If you can hold the saxophone and get it into position, you're well on your way to the next lesson.